The air inside Bean Ridge Cafe, located in the heart of Denver, Colorado, was filled with the steady sound of grinders and the soft murmur of casual conversation. It was mid-morning, and the cafe hummed with the energy of students typing away on laptops, couples sharing quiet moments, and locals grabbing their daily dose of caffeine. The cafe prided itself on being a space of openness and community, its walls adorned with art from local creators and posters advocating for environmental causes. That morning, the usual rhythm of the shop was disrupted when a man stepped inside. He wasn't trying to draw attention, but attention found him anyway. Wearing a red MAGA hat that practically glowed against his otherwise casual attire, he walked confidently toward the counter. To the staff and customers, he was just another patron, unassuming yet unmistakably polarizing. They had no idea they were looking at Elon Musk, billionaire tech mogul and CEO of the very coffee chain they frequented. Behind the counter, Lily Summers, a barista with a sharp mind and an equally sharp sense of justice, froze at the sight of the hat. A junior at the University of Denver majoring in sociology, she prided herself on standing up for what she believed in. To her, the hat was a symbol of division and harm, a beacon for everything she had protested against. Elon stepped up to the counter, his expression calm, and flashed a polite smile. "Morning. Could I get a large Americano, please?" His tone was pleasant, almost disarming. Lily hesitated. She could feel her heart pounding in her chest. The cafe had a strict policy about treating customers equally, but something inside her balked. She thought about her friends, her family, and the rallies she'd attended. The red letters on the hat burned in her mind. Could she, in good conscience, serve someone wearing that? "I'm sorry," she said, her voice faltering slightly before finding its edge. "We can't serve you." A hush fell over the cafe. Heads turned and whispers began to ripple across the room like a growing tide. Elon's smile faltered, replaced by a look of measured curiosity. "Can't serve me?" he asked, his voice even. "May I ask why?" Lily glanced at the hat and then back at him. "That thing on your head," she said, her voice firmer now. "It represents everything that goes against what this place stands for, what I stand for." A few patrons exchanged glances, while others leaned forward in their seats, eager to see what would happen next. Elon took a deep breath, clasping his hands on the counter. His reaction wasn't anger, but something closer to disappointment. "I see," he said. "But you don't know anything about me." "I don't need to," Lily shot back, the words spilling out before she could stop herself. "That hat says enough." The tension in the room was palpable. Another barista, Eric, a soft-spoken employee in his late 20s, looked over from the espresso machine, his face a mixture of shock and nervousness. "Lily," he whispered, trying to intervene, "just make the coffee." "No," Lily said, shaking her head, her resolve hardening. "This isn't just about coffee. It's about what's right." Elon let the silence linger for a moment. The weight of the exchange was heavy, not just for the two of them, but for everyone in the room. Finally, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. Calmly, he placed it on the counter and slid it toward her. "Maybe you should take a look at this," he said, his voice quiet yet firm. Lily hesitated, then picked up the card. Her eyes widened as she read the name embossed in clean, bold letters. Elon Musk, founder and CEO, Bean Ridge Coffee. The cafe fell silent again, the realization sinking in for everyone. Lily's face flushed as she looked back at Elon. He didn't gloat or scold. Instead, he studied her with an expression that was almost patient. "I'd still like that Americano," he said, his tone neutral. "If it's not too much trouble." Lily's hands trembled as she tried to process what had just happened. The entire room seemed to be holding its breath, waiting for her next move. The weight of Elon's words hung in the air like a storm cloud. Lily stood frozen, the business card in her hand trembling slightly. The room was so quiet that the soft hiss of steam from the espresso machine seemed deafening. Eric, still at the espresso machine, broke the silence with a nervous laugh, trying to cut through the tension. "You're joking, right?" he asked, looking at Elon with a strained smile. Elon turned his gaze to Eric, calm but unwavering. "I don't make jokes about things like this." He gestured subtly toward the card, his movements deliberate. "It's all there, if you'd like to verify." Whispers began to spread through the cafe like wildfire. A young woman sitting near the window leaned over to her friend. "Is that really Elon Musk?" she whispered, her voice tinged with disbelief. "I think it is," her friend replied, her eyes wide. "What's he doing here?" Lily swallowed hard, feeling the weight of dozens of eyes on her. She wanted to say something, anything, but her words felt stuck in her throat. Her mind raced, trying to reconcile the man standing in front of her with the image she had built in her head. The hat, the calm demeanor, the revelation of his identity. It was all too much. Elon, meanwhile, remained composed. "I didn't come here to make a scene," he said, his voice steady but firm. "I just wanted a cup of coffee, like anyone else." A voice from the corner cut through the murmurs. It was a middle-aged man with a weathered face, wearing a flannel shirt and nursing a black coffee. "If he owns the place, shouldn't he get to wear whatever he wants?" he asked, his tone matter-of-fact. Another voice, this time from a younger woman with brightly dyed hair and thick-rimmed glasses, shot back. "It's not about the hat. It's about what it means. You can't ignore that." The cafe erupted into a low rumble of debate. Some patrons defended Elon's right to wear the hat, while others argued about its implications. Lily could feel her cheeks burning as the conversation swirled around her. She glanced at Eric, who was now looking at her with a mix of concern and silent pleading. Elon raised a hand, and the room quieted almost immediately. There was something commanding about his presence, something that made people listen. "Everyone," he began, his tone measured, "I didn't come here to start an argument. But since we're here, let me ask you this. Is it fair to judge someone entirely based on what they're wearing, without knowing anything else about them?" A young man sitting near the counter, his arms crossed tightly, scoffed. "Come on, man. That hat isn't just clothing. It's a statement." Elon nodded thoughtfully. "You're right. It is a statement. But do you know what it means to me? Or are you assuming you do?" The man faltered, his expression shifting to uncertainty. Elon continued, his voice growing more reflective. "For some, this hat is a symbol of division. I get that. But for me, it's about freedom. Freedom to think differently, to question norms, to believe in economic opportunity. It doesn't mean I agree with everything or everyone associated with it, but it represents principles I believe in." The room fell silent again, the intensity of his words sinking in. Even Lily couldn't help but feel a flicker of doubt creeping into her convictions. She had been so sure of herself, so quick to act, but now she wondered if she had been too quick to judge. Elon's eyes softened as he turned back to Lily. "I understand where you're coming from," he said. "You have your principles, and I respect that. But respect has to go both ways. Don't you think?" Lily opened her mouth to respond, but before she could, the door to the cafe swung open and a group of college students walked in. They were loud and energetic, their conversations filling the space instantly. One of them, a tall guy with a backwards baseball cap, immediately spotted Elon and froze. "Wait a second," he said, pointing. "Is that— no way. Elon Musk? What's he doing here?" The students gathered near the counter, their energy shifting the mood of the room. Some looked at Elon with awe, while others exchanged skeptical glances. Elon exhaled quietly, glancing at his watch. "Look," he said, addressing Lily directly, "I didn't come here to debate politics. I came to see how this location is doing. It's part of my job to check in on my businesses." He gestured toward the coffee machines and the baristas bustling behind the counter. "The shop is part of something I built, a place that's supposed to welcome everyone, no matter who they are or what they believe." His gaze lingered on Lily for a moment longer. "I'd still like that coffee," he added, his voice quieter now but no less firm. "But if you can't serve me, I'll understand. I'll just have to think about what that says." The words hit Lily harder than she expected. She glanced down at the card still in her hand, the shiny letters catching the light. Around her, the cafe seemed to hold its collective breath, waiting for her next move. By the time Lily handed Elon his coffee, her hand still trembling slightly, the cafe's atmosphere had shifted into something heavier. Patrons whispered in hushed tones, some exchanging looks of curiosity, others of quiet judgment. Elon accepted the cup with a polite nod and walked to a table near the window. He sat with an air of composure, sipping his coffee while scrolling on his phone, as if the confrontation had never happened. But it was far from over. Unbeknownst to Elon and Lily, a patron had recorded the entire exchange and uploaded it to social media. The caption read, "Barista refuses to serve Elon Musk for wearing MAGA hat. Turns out he owns the place." Within hours, the video went viral, setting off a firestorm of reactions. The fallout began the next morning. Lily woke to a barrage of notifications on her phone, texts from friends, missed calls, and countless social media alerts. Her Instagram account, which she rarely used, was flooded with comments. Some praised her bravery. "You stood up for what's right, Lily. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Others were scathing. "If you can't serve all customers, you shouldn't be working in a coffee shop." At first, she didn't understand what was happening. Then she saw the video. Her heart sank as she watched herself on screen, her voice trembling as she refused to serve Elon. The video didn't capture the nuances of the moment, her internal struggle, the context of her decision. It reduced her to a symbol, a stand-in for the culture war raging across the nation. Her manager, Rick, called her an hour later. "Lily, we need to talk," he said, his tone measured but serious. "You know what this is about." "I know," Lily replied, barely above a whisper. "We're getting calls," Rick continued. "Corporate's involved now. I'm trying to keep things from spiraling, but you might want to prepare yourself. This isn't going to blow over quickly." Lily felt a wave of panic. She thought back to Elon's calm demeanor during the confrontation. Had he expected this? Had she? Meanwhile, Elon sat in his office in Austin, Texas, fielding calls from his public relations team. The video had reached millions of views, sparking debates across news outlets and social media platforms. Conservative commentators hailed him as a hero standing up for free speech. Liberal pundits dissected the implications of his hat, questioning whether it was an intentional provocation or a genuine statement of belief. "Elon," his head of PR Lauren said during a Zoom call, "this is getting bigger than we anticipated. We need a public statement." Elon leaned back in his chair, pinching the bridge of his nose. "I don't want to escalate this," he said. "It was a misunderstanding, not a campaign." Lauren frowned. "But the narrative is out of our control now. If we don't address it, people will fill in the blanks." Elon sighed, his mind racing. He thought about Lily, the trembling in her voice when she refused him, the way her conviction seemed to crack under the weight of his revelation. She wasn't a villain, and he didn't want her to become one. But how could he convey that to an audience hungry for division? "Let's keep it simple," he said finally. "I'll acknowledge the incident, but focus on what matters. Dialogue, not outrage." That afternoon, Elon posted a video on his social media accounts. He stood in a bright, minimalist room, speaking directly to the camera. "Hi everyone," he began. "By now, many of you have seen the video of my visit to one of my coffee shops. There's been a lot of debate about what happened, and I'd like to share my perspective." He paused, letting the words sink in. "First, I want to say that I respect Lily, the barista who refused to serve me. She acted on her principles, and while I disagreed with her decision, I believe in the importance of standing up for what you believe in. At the same time, we need to find ways to disagree without tearing each other apart." Elon's expression softened as he continued. "This isn't about hats or politics. It's about people. I hope we can use this moment as an opportunity to listen to each other, to have the tough conversations that lead to understanding." The video ended with a simple message: "Let's talk." The reactions were as divided as ever. Some applauded Elon's measured response, calling it a rare example of leadership in a polarized world. Others accused him of deflecting, arguing that his hat represented more than just personal beliefs. It symbolized pain for many marginalized communities. For Lily, the video was both a relief and a burden. She appreciated Elon's attempt to defuse the situation, but it didn't erase the flood of comments, the calls from reporters, or the stares she received at the cafe. The incident had become bigger than her, bigger than Elon. It was now a flashpoint in the nation's ongoing cultural battles. Later that week, Elon reached out to Naomi Carter, a well-known social justice advocate based in Denver. Naomi was respected for her ability to bring people together, even in the most contentious situations. She had organized community forums on police reform, education inequality, and environmental justice, always emphasizing dialogue over division. When Elon explained the situation to her, Naomi listened carefully. "You want to hold a community meeting?" she asked. "Yes," Elon replied. "I want to talk, face to face, with the people affected by this. I want to hear them out." Naomi tilted her head, studying him. "You know this won't be easy, right? People are angry, hurt." "I know," Elon said, "but we have to start somewhere." Naomi considered his words, then nodded. "All right," she said, "let's do it." The community center in Denver was modest, with rows of folding chairs arranged in a circle under the fluorescent glow of overhead lights. A faint buzz of chatter filled the room as people trickled in, some curious, others apprehensive. A mix of emotions painted the gathering: anger, hope, frustration, and cautious optimism. Everyone had seen the video. Everyone had an opinion. Elon Musk arrived early, wearing a simple gray sweater and jeans, no MAGA hat this time. He stood near the entrance, shaking hands with Naomi Carter, the organizer of the event. Naomi, a tall woman with a commanding presence, had a way of making people feel seen. Her voice, firm but calm, cut through the growing noise. "Thank you all for coming," she began, standing at the center of the circle. "We're here tonight because an incident at a coffee shop sparked a conversation about symbols, beliefs, and respect. This meeting isn't about assigning blame or winning an argument. It's about understanding." She gestured toward Elon. "Mr. Musk has agreed to join us to share his perspective and listen to yours. Let's keep this civil, all right?" A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Naomi gave a small nod of approval and turned to Elon. "Would you like to start?" Elon stepped forward, his expression thoughtful. "Thank you, Naomi," he said. "And thank you all for being here. I know the last few days have been intense." A small dry laugh escaped from a man sitting near the back. Elon smiled faintly, acknowledging the tension. "I won't pretend to know what everyone here has gone through or what this hat," he gestured toward an imaginary cap, "means to each of you, but I can tell you what it means to me. For me, it's a symbol of individual freedom, economic opportunity, and the belief that we can make things better, if we're willing to work for it." He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of the attendees. "I also understand that for many, it represents something very different, and I want to hear why. I'm here to listen." The room was quiet for a moment. Then a young woman with curly hair and a sweatshirt emblazoned with the words, "Love Wins," raised her hand. "My name's Erin," she said, her voice steady. "And honestly, that hat feels like a slap in the face to people like me. My parents are immigrants, and some of the policies it stands for made their lives harder. So, when I see it, it doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like exclusion." Elon nodded slowly, his face thoughtful. "Thank you for sharing that, Erin. I appreciate your honesty." A man in his 50s, dressed in a button-down shirt, spoke next. "I'm Rick," he said, his tone sharp. "I'm a veteran, and that hat reminds me of what I fought for, the right for all of us to have different opinions. But lately it feels like having a different opinion makes you an enemy. That's not the country I fought for." The tension in the room thickened. Naomi stepped in, her voice cutting through like a calming breeze. "Thank you both. Let's keep this going. Lily, I believe you're here tonight. Would you like to share?" Lily, seated near the edge of the circle, stiffened. She had debated coming at all, but something compelled her to face the fallout head-on. Slowly she stood, her heart pounding. "My name is Lily," she began, her voice softer than usual. "I'm the barista from the video." All eyes turned to her, some sympathetic, others guarded. She felt the weight of their gaze, but pushed on. "I made a decision that day because I thought I was standing up for what was right, but now, I'm not sure. I still believe in my principles, but I've realized that shutting someone out because of what they're wearing doesn't lead to understanding. It just builds a bigger wall." Her voice faltered, but she steadied herself. "I'm sorry for how I handled it. I didn't mean to hurt anyone, but I see now that I might have." Elon looked at her, his expression unreadable for a moment. Then he spoke, his tone sincere. "Thank you, Lily. That takes courage." A man from the back of the room, wearing a cap emblazoned with the words "Veterans for Change," raised his hand. "Look," he said, "we're all passionate about what we believe. That's good, but we can't keep screaming at each other from opposite sides. If we don't start talking, we're just going to tear ourselves apart." Naomi stepped forward again, her voice filled with conviction. "Exactly. That's why we're here, to talk, not tear. Let's hear from a few more voices." Over the next hour, stories poured out. A woman spoke about her experience feeling alienated as a black mother. A small business owner shared how certain policies had hurt his livelihood. A college student explained why she marched for causes she believed in. Each story added layers to the conversation, breaking down stereotypes and fostering moments of understanding. As the meeting wound down, Naomi addressed the room. "We've heard a lot tonight. We've seen how complicated this all is. But what I hope we take away from this is that dialogue matters. We can disagree without dehumanizing each other." Elon stepped forward one last time. "I came here because I wanted to understand, and I hope I've done that tonight. We won't solve everything in one meeting, but this is a start. Thank you for being part of it." The room erupted in applause, not thunderous but warm and genuine. For the first time, it felt like a step forward. The weeks following the community meeting brought an unexpected calm to the whirlwind of controversy. The headlines shifted to other topics, the viral video faded from the forefront, and life at Bean Ridge Cafe began to settle. Yet, for those who had been part of the incident, the experience left a lasting impression. Elon Musk found himself reflecting on the meeting as he sat in his Austin office one quiet afternoon. The stories shared by the attendees had stuck with him. The young woman's pain, the veteran's pride, Lily's conflicted apology. It reminded him that symbols, no matter how personal, carried different meanings depending on the beholder. He called Naomi Carter to thank her. "That meeting was the first step," he said, "but it can't be the last." Naomi, ever pragmatic, agreed. "You have a platform, Elon," she said. "Use it. Let's turn this into something bigger." Back at the Denver cafe, Lily was adjusting to her new reality. She still received occasional comments from customers, some supportive, others critical, but she'd developed a thicker skin. More importantly, she had started to see her job in a different light. The cafe wasn't just a place for coffee, it was a microcosm of the larger world, a space where diverse perspectives intersected. One afternoon, Elon walked into the cafe again. This time, he wasn't wearing a hat. He approached the counter with his characteristic calm, and Lily met him with a tentative smile. "Americano?" she asked. "Please," Elon replied, his tone warm. As she prepared his order, he leaned on the counter. "How are you holding up?" Lily shrugged. "Better than I expected. The meeting helped. Hearing everyone's stories. It changed how I see things." Elon nodded thoughtfully. "That's good to hear. I've been thinking about what we talked about that night. Dialogue shouldn't end with one meeting." He placed a folder on the counter. "I have an idea. I want to create a program for all Bean Ridge locations, a space for open discussions, moderated by people like Naomi, a way to bridge divides and encourage understanding." Lily picked up the folder and flipped through the proposal. It outlined plans for monthly community events, scholarships for underserved students, and partnerships with local organizations. She looked up at Elon, her eyes wide. "This is ambitious." "So am I," Elon said with a small smile. "But I can't do it alone. I need people who believe in it. People like you." Lily blinked, taken aback. "You want me to help?" "If you're willing," Elon replied. "You've seen both sides of this. That perspective is valuable." After a moment's hesitation, Lily extended her hand. "All right," she said. "Let's do it." Over the next few months, the initiative began to take shape. Bean Ridge cafes across the country hosted open forums where people shared their stories and listened to others. The program, called Bridges at Bean Ridge, gained traction quickly, drawing praise for its focus on empathy and dialogue. Naomi Carter became a key figure in the initiative, helping train moderators and develop discussion topics. Her work brought her back to the Denver Cafe often, where she and Lily formed a bond over their shared commitment to fostering understanding. One evening, Naomi and Elon sat in the cafe after hours, discussing the program's progress. The space was quiet, save for the faint hum of machinery and the occasional rustle of papers. "Do you think it's working?" Elon asked, sipping a decaf latte. Naomi considered his question carefully. "It's not solving everything," she said, "but it's a start. People are talking. That's more than we had before." Elon leaned back in his chair, a satisfied look crossing his face. "Good, that's all I wanted." The Denver location, once the backdrop of division, had transformed into something more. Regulars of all backgrounds now frequented the shop, not just for coffee but for connection. The walls displayed photos from the community meetings, alongside messages of hope and unity penned by patrons. Lily, now a manager, often found herself at the center of these gatherings. She had learned to listen as much as she spoke, finding value in perspectives she once dismissed. The experience had changed her, not by erasing her beliefs, but by deepening her understanding of others. One afternoon, Elon visited the cafe again. He stood near the counter, watching as Lily interacted with customers, her demeanor confident and kind. When she noticed him, she waved him over. "How's it going?" he asked. "Busy," she replied, grinning, "but in a good way." Elon glanced around the cafe, taking in the vibrant energy. "This place feels different." "It is," Lily said, "and I think it's just getting started." The story of the Denver Cafe became a symbol of what was possible, a reminder that even in a world divided by beliefs and identities, connection was still within reach. It wasn't about agreeing on everything, it was about seeing each other as people first. Elon and Lily, two individuals from vastly different worlds, had found common ground not by abandoning their principles, but by opening themselves to the possibility of growth. Their journey proved that understanding wasn't easy, but it was always worth pursuing. As Elon walked out of the cafe that day, the sun casting a warm glow over the bustling street, he felt a rare sense of hope. One step at a time, the bridges they were building might just hold.